We are happy to be here with Taiwo. When we heard about her fantastic garden, we saw immediately a connection with the Biocultural Education and Research Program because we are very invested in the conservation of our local biodiversity and at the same time the culture, the heritage, the tradition involved. And I think coming to your beautiful garden, I can see it expressing everything. So it'll be lovely for you to tell us how your garden started. And I know it had its genesis in Mom here, and we need to celebrate that she is 96 years old. This is a storehouse of knowledge, of biocultural knowledge, and we're going to talk about that today. Tell us about the garden and Mum's role and what it means to you.
I came here in 2018 to support Mum, who was one of the Windrush people, had been to England and had returned as a returnee, was in England as a midwife health visitor, and then returned, took early retirement to come back to the land. She wanted to come back early to be part of the land and to be with her family. I came, she was 89 I think when I came, and there was the traditional, the cassava, the yam, the sweet potato.
Beautiful.
And there was Mum carrying the big gallons of water, no hose pipes there, no irrigation. And she taught me, I knew nothing, I was like a city girl in London. So I came thinking I was strong, fresh and willing. And it was me dragging behind Mum, and she told me about, you know, the leaves. She told me about the trees, she told me how to identify the soursop, the mango,
Wow.
the custard apple, the breadfruit, and she said, once you know the leaves, you know the trees.
Oh my.
So that's what she taught me, and she taught me how to use a hoe, she taught me how to make a bed, she taught me how to dig up the cassava, how to harvest the sweet potato. She taught me everything I know about Caribbean gardening. She taught me everything to know about the traditions of lemongrass, of fever grass, of leaf of life. She'd Epsom salts, so how to use them in the garden. So she taught me all I didn't have to go through a one-page textbook.
Right.
I had the knowledge from my own mother, and that was really beautiful. And what the difference there, and the great thing that I found is once she was in the garden, she came alive. When she came in the house, she became this kind of little old lady.
Okay.
And I could see the transformation, and it really interested me tremendously. I thought this is special and this is unusual to me. So I thought there's a science behind this. So I was looking and searching, and I noticed something came up called social and therapeutic horticulture.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what, this fits what we do.
Right.
It fits Mum when she's just sitting in the garden passively, and it fits when she's actively working in the garden, and it fits when she's socially interacting in the garden. Yeah. So I trained in and became a social and therapeutic horticultural practitioner.
Oh, this is so fantastic.
And it was really fascinating because I could relate to the theories and the practical, to the traditional, to the heritage, and it all mixed in together. And what was really interesting, and whilst social and therapeutic horticulture is very much a Western idea, if I say so, traditionally Africans have been doing this forever. And so what I wanted to do was to bring out some of the therapeutic theories and nature of gardening within a Caribbean sense. And that really came to fruition in December 22 when Mum had her first stroke.
Oh dear.
And she, it was a light one, give thanks, but she learned how to walk again, she learned how to communicate again, and the rehab was her garden.
Right.
So instead of walking and measuring how much distance she could walk from A to B, the distance was, how far can you walk, Mum, from the tamarind tree to the soursop tree? And the motivation was there because when the harvest time, she would go to walk to pick up the soursop, or went to the mango tree. And initially She was in a wheelchair, then she was in a walker, and now with support she walks around the garden.
Fantastic.
And when she was fit, she did laps. Before the stroke, she would walk around the garden. And when she couldn't remember how many laps she'd done, she'd get a stone, pick up a stone from the garden, put it down. When she came back, that was sweet number 2. So it became a rehab centre for her. And because I'd done the training, I knew how to work specifically within the garden, which accompanied the heritage, continued the heritage, and also changed the landscape of the garden. So where there was big cassava and big sweet potato, and where Mum would do big heavy work, we looked at changing things that Mum could still work. So container, barrel planting, container planting, looking at more of greens, of spinach and the okra and the herbs, and making use of the garden became almost like a sensory garden, because smell was very, very important, and it was also a trigger for Mum. So if she couldn't really remember the mango tree, she could just smell a mango, you know. And so that was really, really important. And for family back home, we used to do pre-recorded videos where Mum would talk about the mangoes, and I'd record it and then send it off to family. And that moved forward to organisations in England where people who would come for 6 months and stay in Barbados, but because of ageing couldn't, we'd bring the garden to them. So where there was community groups and community farms in the UK, we'd do workshops, and my sister, she would link up with the organisations in the UK, and we'd have a communication through virtual gardening where people could talk and reminisce from UK of what it was like, and we could show them, and they could still, with climate change, you can do okra, you know. And so it was looking at what are the benefits, if I can say that. And so we became a business, we became an organisation called Granny's Caribbean Garden, and it wasn't just people from the Caribbean, it was people from the homeland of Africa in the UK who just wanted a sense of home in a different way. So we used the garden basically in many different formats, from the healing, from the tradition, from the heritage to the rehab. And Mum still, you know, is in charge. You know, she still says, "Ty, I want you to do this." Okay, Mum, let's do that. And it's something that, as a caregiver as well, it's very important. It's not just the recipients of an ageing population. With an ageing population, there are also caregivers. And amongst the Caribbean, it is often, I'm not just the only person that's come from England to care for an ageing parent. There's more and more of us doing that. And it's how can we look after ourselves through the garden? How can we take care of ourselves? So it's a multitude of things, and the garden changes and ages and adapts to what is necessary, and that's the beauty of the Caribbean garden, really.
We hear nowadays of some medical practitioners who are in tune with nature, dealing with NCDs like high blood pressure, hypertension, are recommending that individuals spend more time in nature. You know, we've carried this, what I call nature blindness, for so long, that it's so important that we do through a different lens and realize how important it is to be, again, one with our botanical resources. And I'm really excited. I mean, I knew that I was coming to your garden, but I didn't know that I was going to get this rich narrative. It's absolutely fantastic. And I know we've got a lot of gardens here in Barbados, but I do not think that they function in this context. And this is absolutely beautiful. So you said that you've got reach globally. Could you expand a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it started off where my background is like a qualitative researcher, reminiscence worker, and when I was in the UK, I was doing a lot of workshops with older people, and I was working with Age UK. And what I found was, being here, how can we communicate? And initially, it's like sending photos to family, and then we discovered from a community centre with some Caribbean people, Asian people, that they wanted to find out more. So we decided to set up a project, a pilot project, and that project was about me being here in Barbados and my sister in the UK, and we'd connect through a virtual gardening process. So how that worked was I would and my mother would talk about the Caribbean garden and what we were planting, and we'd start off with introduction, say, hi everybody in the UK, you know, I'm Taiwo, this is Beulah, and it's lovely to see you with these workshops. And my sister would be having the computer that could relay that information, and I would be talking about the Caribbean and they'd be talking about what they'd like to be planting and how they'd like to do that. And then we'd have like 6 weeks blocks, and each week would have a different theme within the garden.
Oh, beautiful.
And they would link, and at the end of that, and within that, so we'd use the plants and properties and how they're grown and what they do. That was one aspect. And then we'd have the cultural aspect of what that means. What does that mean, having an okra? What does that mean, being able to plant a sweet potato? And then that would lead on to their heritage of what it was like for them being back home and what they missed, but also what connection they could still have in the UK through speaking with others, and they could still link that. So when they go to Brixton Market, or you know, markets where they sell, you know, Caribbean food, they could have much more of a sense of what that meant, and it was, you could still connect through food, you could still connect through growing. So that kind of catapulted from different projects, different funding that we got, and working with. And then there's an organisation called Thrive, which is where I got my training from, and it's a social and therapeutic organisation where you train online, and then you can also go there. And they asked me to do a presentation because they found it very interesting, and how we could develop that, because there'd been gardening projects, but virtual gardening projects, which combined the UK and the Caribbean. So we worked on that, and it's also to say that you don't have to have a big project, you don't have to have a big garden. You can have a pot in your kitchen, pot of thyme, you know, a pot of parsley. So you don't have to travel all the way, you know, catapult yourself. So that's how we worked and continue to work as a virtual and a face-to-face project. My sister in the UK was face-to-face, and I was virtual. So we're co-directors of the project.
Beautiful. Tell me about the importance of having this blend of food and medicinals in your garden.
I think it's very important. Again, it grew over the years as Mum's aging and my caregiving, and I realised there was more, you know, there was more importance in the medicinal, and where Mum had taught me initially and her memory was not so much, I remembered, and so I grew more leaf of life, I grew more you know, vervain, I grew more herbs of mint, I grew more aloes. That was the aloes patch was very small. I grew more of that. Mum used to eat that when she was younger. When I say younger, that was in her 80s. But so I realised the importance of the use of medicinal plants, and again, like you say, that the diseases that are happening more often, you know, economy cannot afford for people to go to the doctors all the time, you know, and obviously you do need pharmaceuticals, obviously you do need that, but you also, I think COVID taught a lot for people. It was about going back to basics, and that was a big trigger, I think, where people began to not rush to the supermarket, not rush for this, for medicine. They actually went back to their grandmothers and say, Grandma, you know, my babe needs this. Okay, you need to rub him or her down with this. And I think that catapulted the new wave. The new wave of the importance of medicinal herbs in the garden. I don't know now that the shops are back and everything's back. People have very short memories, but we don't, and I don't. And I think it's an ongoing thing. I know that Barbados is one of the, you know, a very great aging population. So we are going to have to go back to tradition. And and it's going to be important.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so increasingly I'm developing more of that in the garden with Mum. And so, you know, if Mum has if she only has to sneeze, and out comes the garlic, the leaf of life, the bush tea, the ground tea, you know, nipping it in the bud.
Yeah,
you know, not going down for an aspirin or a paracetamol, you know. You know, you do this first and obviously monitor and see how it goes, but start with the natural. Start with the natural, obviously alongside with, you know, the doctor or officer, but it's about going back to basics.
There's been a lot of pivoting, as you said. I think COVID-19 was pretty traumatic for everyone, and maybe it's something that we have not really sort of fleshed out and distilled in terms of what impact that period had on all of us. But as you do say, here in Barbados, I heard more and more of persons tending to look back, tending to look inward, tending to reconnect with family tradition in terms of managing health. And that is something that the Biocultural Education and Research Program is also very invested in, because I do believe that we need to recognize the value and potential in these traditional systems. We know that globally, it has been estimated that 80% of the global population still relies on traditional systems of healing in one way or another. And even the World Health Organization has been promoting that, asking globally that healthcare systems look at integrating what they call traditional medicine and complementary medicine more within public healthcare systems. And that is something that is very important to me, because it's really difficult in many cases to get the type of access that is needed. And if traditional systems are strong and standardized, then I think that they should be considered for implementation. And this is something that I speak about whenever I have that opportunity. So I'm really happy that your garden is somewhat of a model in terms of how we can look back and embrace. And as you said, being more informed is a good thing, because you can monitor. And I always say that if you have a very strong family tradition, that strong family tradition is going to be based on observation and understanding of how the therapies can help. And if that tradition has worked for a family over decades, I see no need to change. The European Union has a standard whereby they say that if traditional use of a plant has been going on for 30 years plus, and there's no report of adverse effects of using that plant, they have no issues with that plant being used in product development that is sold over the counter. And I believe that is a system that we need to look at in the Caribbean, because we have such a wealth of knowledge in the Caribbean, and we are not embracing it properly. And we need to have policies like that. You understand?
And I think that's a historical thing. I mean, Laura Robertson and Krumer. We met through Thrive Connection on social therapeutic horticulture, and what we've noticed that there are pockets in the Caribbean that are doing this, and we are looking at developing a network of Caribbean therapeutic horticultural network.
Beautiful.
Because I know Laura knows in St. Kitts, Nevis, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, in prisons, in hospitals, there are doctors who have embraced.
There we go.
Have embraced, and in different parts of the Caribbean, there are patients in hospitals where the staff are being trained and also have gardens to work with patients. So there are, and as usual, it's not heard. Our voices aren't heard. Bringing the traditionals into the system and working alongside the system. So Laura and I really want to develop this network of connecting and bringing together and sharing, both from practitioners and clients and users together, along the Caribbean, because as we know in this climate,
Oh yeah.
we have to come together as a Caribbean nation,
Oh yeah.
not just as a Bajan nation or Jamaica, but a
Exactly.
Caribbean nation. And we have
Exactly.
all the natural resources, and we have to break away from the historicalness of
Yeah.
what nature did do to us,
Right.
and reclaim it back.
Correct.
And reclaim it back.
Yeah. And we do understand that islands are going to be sort of the poster cases for climate change impact. And that's something that concerns me very much as well, because I think that we need to inform our citizens so that they can be resourceful and respond to the impacts that climate change will have. And I know that our food resources are very vital, and we need to have persons understand, just as you're doing here, how a food garden could be an agent for survival. How a health garden could be an agent for survival under a time of great trauma. You know, change in our ecosystem, getting medications to the island, food to the island. We don't want to be left wanting. We want to be self-sufficient. And Laura was at our symposium, and she told me, well, you have to go to Granny's Caribbean Garden. And I'm so happy that we made it here today, because I think that all of what we're saying is so important to get out to communities, so we know what is happening out there, and establishing this network for, you know, therapeutics in horticulture would be really a signature moment for the Caribbean. Yeah.
Do you want to tell them what trees are there?
What tree is this?
Soursop.
This is a soursop tree, and we counted
41.
41 soursop on the tree.
And what is soursop good for? How would you use soursop?
All that, like you use any fruit,
Okay.
any fruit.
Enjoy it as a lovely fruit. Enjoy it as a lovely fruit.
Yes,
Yes. But we also know that the soursop leaf is good for cancer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mum, your favourite? Why the ackee tree?
you know the apples.
Yes. Look at that. It's a fascinating tree.
We
Do
do.
you use the apple? Do you use it?
I do. I have a Jamaican friend who cooks it for me. I've never done it myself.
Mum taught me how to clean the ackee. So
Oh, yeah.
because it's poisonous if you don't clean it
Correct.
properly.
Yes.
You showed me how to clean the ackee, didn't you, Mum? You showed me how to clean the ackee.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's a good friend of mine, an ethnobotanist, who has written a lot about the Jamaican ackee. And he says if the ackee is not smiling, then it's not talking to you. So it has to be open. Yeah.
Yeah. And these are the pumpkin. This is one of our new things, the pumpkin in this bed. We've kind of tried a different way of gardening. So this
Right. Yes.
And this, remember we talked about the sensory garden.
Yes.
So the importance of smell
Yes.
is really important.
Yes.
Smell that, Mum.
Smell that.
Yeah. I will.
Yeah.
Anything in the mint family
Yeah,
is
there's like-
beautifully
yeah.
aromatic.
Chocolate,
Yes.
lemon. And we did companions, so we got the cucumbers. Look, Mum's focused on the mangoes. So we'll go
Okay.
straight. Yeah, so the tomatoes, the cucumber and the okra.
Yes.
And then the basil and the marigolds, they help. They
Yes.
help, ward off.
Oh, that is
pests.
amazing. Beautiful.
And we love Suriname cherries. This is the
Oh.
small of the Suriname cherries along
Yes.
here. You're
Yeah.
going to take. I've got some juice for you actually that I made.
Oh, lovely.
Right, Mum. Which one? Which mangoes need picking? Does that one?
These are big.
This one. Okay. Because
Oh.
and we get them ripened up inside.
Okay. So you pick them before.
A little, just a little bit.
Yes.
Do you want to hold that?
Beautiful.
And I saw another one, and even more what? I saw another one.
It's up there.
Where?
Oh, there's a lovely.
Oh yeah, oh no,
Yeah,
the monkeys,
but
the
that
birds
looks
have got
like-
it.
Yeah.
The birds have got it. But there's another one. There's one here.
We're blessed.
Yes, you are. Nature is very important, and it's great that you can be out here enjoying this. Yes, tell me.
For breakfast.
Yes.
Taiwo,
Yeah?
what do I have for breakfast?
We have cherries, the cherries and mango.
Oh, lovely.
What?
Cherries and mango.
Yeah.
Yes, fantastic.
I'll put it on here for now.
Yeah. Okay, you have some sage
What?
growing here. Some
Yes.
lantana.
Yeah. Colour is another thing important within the garden.
Mm-hmm.
A brightness,
Yes.
a happiness, you know?
If we look at it from the scientific part, we know that the colors are indicative of a certain wavelength of energy.
Interesting.
And that
Wow.
wavelength
Yeah.
of energy
Yeah.
can interface with individuals in different ways.
Wow. That
Me
is-
personally, I love color.
yeah. These are the custard apples or sugar apples. This is a tiny tree. I saw some coming. Oh yeah, Mum, look, they're coming.
I don't know when last I've seen a sugar apple on the tree.
Come, Mum.
Yeah.
I've seen one. Oh, there's another one here.
Yeah, we know they're very closely related to soursop, actually,
Yeah.
the same family. Yeah.
We've got two actually. And they've got our bay leaf tree.
Oh, aroma.
Yes.
What is this Taiwo?
This
Do
is
you
the other,
have-
this is the other sugar apple, Mum. There's two of
Yeah.
them.
Another sugar apple.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Where is it? Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So, do you have bay leaf tea then on
Yeah,
mornings?
yeah. And the evenings actually,
Oh.
nice and calm as well. In
Yes.
the evenings, and I love to cook. Yeah, I love to cook with them. Can you smell the bay leaf, Mum?
Oh, the belly.
Yes. See, yeah. When you sing, she smells, she remembers.
Jamila, where are you? Have a smell. That is potent.
We love our cherries. The Suriname cherry. We've got this is the Bajan cherry,
Yes.
which I know you know.
Yes, I have one of those. It's,
The cherries, Mum, one of your favourites. Let's see if I can get some. I picked most of the ripe ones. Taste that. Sonia.
oh.
Yeah, for you to
you,
taste.
you
Oh,
had
you
cherries
first.
this morning. Yeah. Okay. Let me see.
Guys,
Oh my God.
I know. It's just.
What is that?
Oh, you don't like it, Sonia?
I do.
It's a Suriname cherry. Suriname cherry.
The burst of flavor.
Yeah.
Oh
it's
my
a
gosh.
burst.
What do you think about
Yeah.
that, Jay?
Kind of unusual,
Yes, like a peppery.
but sometimes you keep eating.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's unusual.
Right.
Continue to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a complexity of flavor going on there. Oh, that is amazing.
And every day, I cook a whole box. They like, I don't know, at the night time they just
Yeah.
quadruple.
Yes.
But I've got a whole. I've got some in the freezer. I'll give you some bags.
Oh, thank you.
And then they have the golden apple. Mama, golden apple.
You know, kind of the knuckles that you used to before.
What are these?
The golden apple, Mum.
Golden apples. Oh, wow. That was an experience.
These two are the fig trees. These are the figs.
Okay.
And we used to have really big mangoes on this tree. It hasn't borne for a couple of years now, Sonia. We don't know why. This is our leaf of life, broadleaf thyme in the ashwagandha. This is the herb patch, and we're not sure what we want to plant in there. I think this whole area will be more medicinal herb area that we'll continue to add.
Yes. Right. Broadleaf thyme as well.
Yeah, yeah. So all this we started the barrel planting for Mum that she could take responsibility for.
Yeah.
We've got a tiny little watering can. Before she'd have the big gallon things, but now you have a little tiny watering can, and we have a herb patch just inside as well, which I'll show you in a minute.
So we're coming this way?
Yeah, around here, yeah. So we decided to do some Chinese cabbage. Which we haven't, and this is the elephant ears. This was an accidental, it was a pawpaw in a pot, which we forgot, and it did its pawpaw, and we were going to cut it. Mum says she wants to keep it like this, so we're keeping it.
Okay.
And then this is the spinach.
Yes.
Spinach. Again, it's been very difficult to find spinach occasionally in the supermarket, and that's another thing what you said about food security.
Correct.
You know, don't rely on the supermarket. Don't rely on the supermarkets.
No.
They need watering. Do you want to water them, Mum? Do you want to water them? Do you want to water them? You haven't watered them.
No, you can do it now.
You want to do it
We'll be happy
now?
to watch you.
Okay, I'll get the can for you. I'll get it for you. We've got a tank here.
So what do you have in your herb garden? What do you have in your herb garden? What's that? Parsley?
Taiwo.
That's okay, hon.
We have the thyme, the parsley, the coriander, and the lemon balm, which I just love the lemon balm.
Okay, you want to water?
Yeah. Mum, you haven't watered for ages.
It's a lovely pick.
So we used to have a big watering can, and now she has one. I do one that she can handle.
You could just have a sensory session where persons come and just smell.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
This was her wheelchair, which she no longer uses.
Oh.
So all of this is where all her sheep were, like 60 years ago. So Mum, you know in there, was it the baby sheep? You said the female sheep.
In here? Yes. Okay.
Where did the female sheep stay?
Well, we never separated them, male and female.
Male and female. Okay.
Yes.
So what I want to do, Sonia, is to put corrugated on, but I want to almost keep it as is.
Yes.
And then make it like a workshop.
Yeah.
So people, do the foundation flooring so that people can have workshops.
Yes. Well,
in the
reconnecting in the space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was a beautiful experience having you tour the garden with us.
Oh, thank you.
You are most welcome. Okay, here you go.
Okay.
It's a little warm.
Yes. So would you like some juice then?
Yes, I do, yes.
This is from the cherries. Well, you showed them around the garden, Mum.
She did a fantastic job. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to visit and seeing. Sharing is so important. Sharing, giving is all part of, I think, Caribbean tradition, really. So yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Thank you. Cheers.